An old abandoned barn, what might be hidden behind its creaky doors in Banff? Let's consider a classic example of a probable barn find with this rare 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona, which was discovered on a farm in Glenwood, Alabama, after spending several decades in a barn. This car was once purchased by a local judge for his beloved wife, but in 1974 it was sold, and the second owner, for unknown reasons, put it in the barn and completely forgot about it. By the way, this devil could reach an unimaginable speed of 330 kilometers per hour at that time. Only 560 units of this model rolled off the assembly line, of which only 385 remain. I don't even know how to classify this particular specimen, as its condition was more than lamentable. However, the car was fully equipped with original parts, which, combined with its exclusivity, would allow it to sell for around $200,000. But all of this is just the tip of the iceberg compared to the cars that will be discussed next. In 1929, one of the Wall Street brokers bought a brand new Packard for his summer home in Run Lake and drove it throughout his adult life. However, in the 60s, after his death, no one wanted the old Packard and it remained standing in the garage. Nevertheless, in May 2013, a collector accidentally discovered this car, which had been sitting in a wooden garage for many years. He managed to convince the family of the deceased broker that he was the person who could give the car a second life. After a more detailed inspection of the vehicle, to everyone's surprise, it turned out that the Packard was very well preserved. It seemed as if it hadn't been sitting in the garage for 50 years. Ultimately, Paul decided not to restore the Packard, but to preserve the car in the condition it was in, because such cars are sometimes valued even more than their restored counterparts, and this can be explained very simply. There are many restored cars, but very few originals remain. The story of an Austin 7 is no less captivating. This 1959 car had been rusting for many years in a garage in England. When an editor from an automotive website bought it for £11,000 in 2011, it was considered sheer madness. But it turned out that the editor was smarter and just outsmarted everyone, because this little car turned out to be one of the first minis, of which only 3 examples remain in the world today. In 2012, rusty and on flat tires, this little gem was sold at auction for $68,500. In 1953, Chevrolet introduced the completely new Chevrolet Corvette, a 2-door coupe with a fiberglass body. One of these swallows has an incredible story. In 1954, a happy owner of such a car was a resident Richard Sampson. After driving it a little over 3,000 kilometers in 5 years, he decided to reliably wall up the car for the next 41 years. To do this, he drove the car to the site where his new sports store was being built, drove into the basement, and ordered the builders to construct a brick wall around the car without holes or doors. Only a small window was left so that one could at least peek inside. According to Sampson's order and will, the car was not to be touched until 2000, after which the Corvette was supposed to go to his heirs, who could sell the car for a significant profit. This was his insidious plan. However, Richard died in 1969, and in 1986, his heirs decided to sell the store. After that, for the next 10 years, they tried to sell it to a company that specializes in restoring Corvettes, but even they did not touch the car, calling it the oldest unrestored Corvette. The most interesting part of this story is that it has no end, because in 2014, the car was sold at auction for $80,000, and it is quite possible that the new owner walled it up again, so it could remain there until 2200. Not all barn finds were found in barns though. For example, this little one was found peacefully standing in an underground parking lot of one of the houses in Toronto. As it turned out later, a Canadian businessman bought this Ferrari 365 GTS/4 Daytona straight from the factory in 1971, having fallen madly in love with this beauty at the Geneva Motor Show. He paid a whopping $18,000 for it at that time and drove it all over Europe for a month, after which he brought it aboard the Princess Elizabeth. A little later, the owner went on a long journey through Asia, leaving the car in the underground parking lot, covering it with a tarp, and ironically never touching it again. In November 2014, 44 years after buying it, the Ferrari went under the hammer for an incredible $770,000.